Baby Fit Britt here. I am a Kettlebell Sport athlete and coach. Today I'm bringing you an introduction to the kettlebell jerk. The kettlebell jerk is when you use the power of your hips to bring one or two kettlebells from the rack position to the overhead. Now, this looks simple because we're just moving from that rack to overhead, but there's actually a lot of nuances that make this an incredibly technical lift, especially when you're going for maximum number of reps in 10 minutes. The first aspect of the kettlebell jerk we're going to address is the rack position, when the bells are sitting on the body. This is going to depend on your flexibility, but ideally you want your elbows to sit close to the iliac crest. If the flexibility of your back, your hips, or your shoulders doesn't allow, you can just bring your elbows into your body somewhere, even if it's up high. We also want to make sure that we have one bell handle stacked over the other. This is going to ensure tighter position of the elbows, which is going to prevent slipping and fatiguing of the forearms to keep the bells in later on during the set. We also want to make sure our hands are fully inserted through the handles so that we can just easily hold the bell here without gripping tight onto it. So right here is going to be a good rack position. We want to have relaxation of the upper back and shoulders to allow better connection from elbow to hip. Additionally, you want to make sure you're not bending your legs here. This is going to fatigue your legs real quick. So legs should be straight in the rack position. With a single bell, rack position might be a little easier in terms of flexibility for some. So same principles here, elbow to hip if you can. We want to sit that bell back on the body, straight wrist, relaxed fingers, straight legs. I would personally not recommend jutting your hips out to one side, so I would say try to keep a relaxation of the shoulders so you can reach the hip with hips straight forward. Next, we're going to talk about leg action for the jerk. While your shoulders and your triceps do have to do work to stabilize the bells at the top, really all of the launch comes from your hips. And the better your connection of your elbows to your hips is, the better your jerk is going to go, the less fatigued your arms will get. So we have two dips in the jerk. That's what I call it. So the first dip is when you are sinking through the legs to bring the elbows and hips together. So the sole purpose of that first dip is to get a strong connection between the elbow and hip. So there's no bouncing, it's just sinking in. And notice in this position, my hips are going to stay in line with my knees. Okay, so it's different from a typical prep action like a jump squat when your hips would be back. Here my hips are forward. Okay, it's not a very deep dip. I'm going to make sure my heels stay on the ground as I do this. Again, relaxed upper back and shoulders is going to allow that better connection from elbow to hip. So once we've got that dip down, where all we're doing is bringing the elbows and hip together, that's when we're going to launch the bells. You're going to get a triple extension of your knees, your hips, and your ankles at the top, extending, and then we want to drop down under the bell into our second dip. So for the second dip, here your hips are going to be back, breaking that line so that you can have your center of mass underneath the weight of the bells. So that's where you catch the bells, standing up to finish, fixating or freezing those bells at the top before you bring them back down for your next rep. So I'll demo for you. So our first dip, elbows just sinking to the hips. Right here. Once I've got a good connection there, those elbows sinking in, I'm going to go into my launch, catch with the hips back. Stand tall to complete the rep. Bells come down. Notice my legs are straight again before I start. The last element of the kettlebell jerk I'm going to address for you today is the breathing pattern. So our legs need to move fast for this exercise. Your fast breathing pattern is going to help facilitate faster leg action. So in each dip, you are going to exhale. So you're going to exhale in that first dip to push the air out of that abdominal cavity and get your elbows closer to your hips. You'll inhale as you come up and exhale in that top position to help you stick that landing. So your exhale, your arms locking out, and your second dip are all going to happen at the same time. Bam. Okay, so those are some auditory markers that your timing on the jerk is right. Exhale as those heels hit the ground. So I'm going to show you a couple of repetitions with the breathing. I'll try to exaggerate the breathing a lot so that you can hear it. So you might notice I took an extra exhale at the top. The number of exhales you're going to take at the top will depend on the pace of your jerk. So slower pace might mean a couple extra exhales at the top. Faster pace might mean just one quick exhale before you drop those bells back down. My last tip I'm going to give you guys, save the best for last, is that the biggest improvement you'll see in your jerks will be due to mobility work. So for most people, getting that elbow to hip connection, super challenging due to mostly a tight upper back and tight shoulders. So the more mobility work you can do to help loosen up that upper spine is going to really transfer over into a more comfortable jerk and higher jerk numbers. So if you have any specific questions on what to do to work that mobility, go ahead and leave a comment or shoot me an email and I'll get back to you.